let's now move on to the International B license. And then, once we are done with that, I think we'll get on with some racing before we get through these other two licenses, because I want to get some events over and done with once I'm done with the International B license. So we've got 16 tests, again, including a coffee break, and I think for today at least, I'll try to get through the first 4 lessons, and then we'll see where we go from there, since I don't really have enough time to do a whole license again. So let's begin with our first one here, with braking during turns, where we are using a Hyundai Coupe, or Hyundai, I should say, and we are at Tsukuba Circuit. I'm not going to read through the information anymore, it's a bit too long-winded for me to fully pay attention to. In other words, I think the overall description is a bit too long for me to scroll through. And not bad for a first run, but let's try and see if we can get maybe 1.5 tenths further up. And this time, we are successful by 3 thousandths of a second. I really cannot speak in this episode at the moment. We get the gold by 3 thousandths of a second. That's what I wanted to get out. Anyway. First test done. I've decided I will not bother with reading through the information anymore because, well, it's a bit too long-winded for me personally. Although that could also just be because, well, I'm pretty lazy, but nonetheless, we now move on to the Nürburgring for test number 2. As we are driving a Mercedes 280 SL, I think is what this is, or 380 SL. I really thought for sure I was going to fail there, but I somehow didn't. Although it looks like I'm probably going to... Oh, okay, I don't fail. But we've definitely got some work to do here. I think this is a 380 SL if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, let's try this again and see if we can improve by 1.7 seconds. Okay, so I'm now just pretty much 0.5 tenth off where I need to be in terms of fighting for the gold. I think I have it now, because I nailed that corner entry. I think I might have it now. And I do. Yeah, sorry, I really wanted to do that. That's just on me. But there we go. 2 lessons down and still 14 lessons to go. Again, as I said before, I'm not reading through the information anymore. It's a bit too long-winded for me, personally, to just read it word for word. So, I think I'll just do one more lesson, and then I think I'll call it a day. Because I know this lesson is not going to be too hard to beat. So we are at the spoon corner of Suzuka Circuit, and where the car we are driving this time is a Honda Prelude. or Prelude. I think it's pronounced Prelude. But anyway, we'll see how we go. Just so I can be absolutely sure that this time around, I actually make the corner. And it looks like this time around I have done just that. And I have got the gold on my first completed attempt. And I think what that means is I'm going to call it a day here, because the next one is not going to be anywhere near as simple as this one was. So you know what? I'm just going to end off this part of the episode with the gold theme playing. I figured at least, you know, once would be enough for me to show you just what it sounds like. Okay, I think we're done now. I just figured I wanted to play the full theme once, so you know how it feels. But either way, there we go. So that's pretty much going to end part 1 of this episode, since I don't really have enough time today to actually get through anymore. But when I return, we will be doing the rest of these lessons. So, on now to lesson number 4. 3 tests of the International B license have now been cleared. And this time, we are moving on to test number 4, where we will be driving this Audi S4 around this part of Deep Forest Raceway, and the lesson is called Advanced Level Complex Corners 2, and we need a 28 flat in order to give ourselves that gold. So let's see how we go. I probably shouldn't have braked there. But either way, this is my first attempt, so it's honestly not that surprising. But as long as I pass, then I think we should be alright. So, how far off am I going to be? Okay, I am less than a second off. So we have got some work to do. But hopefully once I get a pattern established, we can find that extra second. So, let's keep trying and see how long it takes for us to turn that bronze into a gold. Okay, let's see if we can get our name on that gold stamp. Even though it's not exactly a stamp, but whatever. A little bit slow there on the corner entry, but I think that's going to make me fast enough, and it does. By nearly 0.3 of a second, I went faster. That actually felt really good. I'm not gonna lie. I can definitely say my prior experience of pushing hard has definitely benefited me up to this point. And do I have a replay saved yet? No, I don't. You know what? No. Since I already have a replay at Deep Forest, I don't really need a second replay saved there. So, let's move on to test number 5, where we are going to be, for the first time in this game, at Costa di Amalfi. And by this time we are driving a Peugeot 206 RC. And 2 minutes 46 is what we need for the gold. And there's the description. I'm probably only going to do that once. I know what to do here. It's just a matter of me making sure that I stay off the walls. But I pretty much know my way around this course. The first time we actually get to do a lap at Costa di Amalfi. And already I have overshot turn 1. I was really confident in saying I was going to pass, but then, right when I made contact with one of the cones offside, that was basically what failed me. Even though I was quite literally half a second up on my previous lap, by the time I got to that sector, I just had to shit the bed by colliding with one of the cones on the pavement. And for that reason alone, right now, I am really unhappy. And apparent as it might be, my ghost is actually faster than me through these first couple of corners. Oh, don't hit the wall, don't hit the wall. Damn it, I still hit the wall. At least I didn't fail. I guess the game can accept light contact with the walls as long as you don't hit them too hard. Then I think you should be okay. And I am a whopping 3/10 down on this lap. But I don't think that really matters because I know precisely where to rectify my mistake. Now this part of the course is really annoying because as soon as you see the pace car is coasting, you basically have to get out of the gas. And then right before you hit the corner, you have to step on the brakes. You kind of do have to coast your way downhill. And I guess you could say you're coaxing, pretty much. And what you have to do is be absolutely mindful of knowing that you're not going to pass the pace car. Because once you do, then well, it's oblivion. Whatever shots you have of passing the test, well, they're basically shot. And this time, I got the gold by 6/10 over my previous best time, as I got the gold by over a quarter of a second. Alrighty, 5 tests down, and we still have another 11 to go. Actually no, I won't save a replay yet. I still need to get myself a replay on one of the other courses, and oh shit. Yep, we are now doing cone slaloms. My god, do I hate cone slaloms. Because we are driving a BMW Z4 down the front stretch of Fuji Speedway. And the one thing that makes this even more annoying is knowing that we have to use the active stability manager on the first one. And then we basically have to do this again on the following run. I will not fail on my first attempt, damn it. I am doing everything in my power to make sure I pass. I somehow passed. In spite of my best efforts to fail, I somehow passed. However, we have got a shitload of time to make up. So let's try and see if we can find 3 seconds. There we go. Got there eventually. Also, just to be clear, personally, I really hate these cone slaloms. Especially when you have to slot through a set of cones right at the end. That's probably the one bit I hate the most about these tests. But nonetheless, they do serve their purpose. Because it shows you one of the most basic techniques of how to understand car control. And regardless of how much I personally hate it, we still have to do it anyway. And this time the active stability manager will be turned off, which means we have a bit more movement in the car. Even though we already had some movement in the car, but whatever. Anyway. I think, now that it's turned off, we should be able to have a bit more control in the car now, compared to before. So, same time as before, 17.7 is what we need for a gold, and we are driving a BMW Z4 for this. Ooh, shit. Okay. Have no idea how I passed that first try, but I barely squeezed through. In spite of everything that very nearly caused me to fail. But whatever. We made it. Now let's try and see if we can find another 2.3 tenths. Yes, finally. I actually made it. I gotta tell you, man, those cone slalom tests, it's about as hellacious as trying to just literally drive a car with a crutch. And that, I can assure you, is probably one of the hardest things you can physically do when you're driving. If you even feel like you can do both things at the same time. And it's also fair to say that I can guarantee you will fail both tests at least 6 times before you pass them. This, I can confidently say, with those 2 cone slalom tests, you will fail them at least a few times before you manage to pass them. Anyway, on now to the halfway point, which takes place in New York. And there's the description, and where we are driving a Chrysler Crossfire. And we are taking some 90-degree bends through these streets. And I'm going to retry right before I fail, because I can see what's going to happen before it happens. Trying again. And surprise, surprise, I had to overshoot again. Well, at least I'm actually gaining some time on my Ghost. Just gotta keep it tight, and then I think we should be good. Okay, what time am I gonna set this time? Huh, 0.3 faster. Literally a third of a second faster. And that was how I got the gold. You know what? I'm actually gonna get my replay of the Chrysler here. Because I reckon I might be able to get some decent shots of the Chrysler literally going through the corners. Plus, this is technically Manhattan after all, so, you know, I gotta get at least one replay in New York. I mean, come on. This is also a Chrysler Crossfire after all, so I might as well diversify it a bit more. With basically test course, a race course, and now a city course. I figured that made sense. Anyway. There we go, we've got through the right-angled corners of New York, and now it's time for us to move on to our coffee break with the TVR Griffith 500. And where last time we went outwards in the spiral, now we are going into the spiral, where we are knocking over 100 cones once again. And we have to keep ourselves tight, as you might have guessed. Anyway, here we go. So once again, we are doing a spiral by moving ourselves into the cones. And hoping that for one reason or another, I can manage to at least get past this without scraping the wall. Which is kind of what I'm hoping for. But we'll wait and see. Hopefully I will. And I do make a tit of myself. I knew I was going to miss at least 1 or 2 cones. Correction, I missed 6 cones. Oh well, I'll just get them right there. Okay, where's the other one? Bastard. I will get you next time. At least I passed. Okay, let's go again. See if we can improve by 11 seconds. Yeah, this time I'm gonna upshift relatively slowly and limit the wheel spin of the TVR. Because this thing does have 340 horsepower after all. And because this thing is also rear wheel drive, it means there's going to be plenty of wheel spin involved. But this time, I went nearly 13 seconds faster. As I set a 29.5. That is amazing. That is actually amazing. In fact, it's so amazing that I will actually save this replay, because I think this replay is slightly better than my Chrysler Crossfire replay. Plus, I figured this might be an appropriate time for me to at least get one thumbnail of the coffee break. You know what? Yes, I am going to overwrite this, because that just felt so much better than what I did in New York. As much as I really do love the Chrysler Crossfire, I gotta admit, I'm also doing that for British bias, because, well, TVR technically is a British-based brand that somehow isn't dead. But either way, I still like my TVRs. And now, we move on to the second half, where we begin at the Italian street course. Ironically, the same one that appeared in Gran Turismo 4 Prologue. There was nothing I could do there. My car was practically rim riding anyway. I just had to go along with that. There wasn't really anything else for me to do in that situation. And first time I actually passed the test, I get the gold. Even though I did kind of drag the wall just a little bit, but again, because my car was practically understeering into the wall anyway, I just had to accept it. And, in all honesty, I actually got lucky to say that did not fail me, when it just as easily could have. But, whatever, don't give a shit. We passed, and now we're on to the next one. This time, in Hong Kong, where we are driving an MG. And yes, I do of course refer to that Hong Kong, if you're asking. I am going to be 3 seconds off. Okay, let's try and see if we can gain that time. Okay, trying again. Trying to see if we can gain 3 seconds on the run. Okay, we're almost there. I am now just 16 hundredths of a second off the gold. I think that's right. Anyway, I am only a matter of inches away from the gold now. I think I went a little too slow there for that corner. Okay, so step on the brakes a little bit through there, try not to touch the wall. Okay, I think that might have actually gained me some time as a result, even though my car was still loose coming off the harbour. I definitely got loose coming off of there. I think that probably did help me in terms of gaining time, in terms of not upshifting. I think that probably did help me. So, heading into this tight hairpin turn now, and on the brakes in a reasonable amount of time, as I am closely following the Nissan Skyline that is ahead of me. And I think that should put me ahead. I'm ahead by a second. So I think it's fair to say that me lifting in the harbour section, I think that probably did help me gain most of my time. If I can manage to stay ahead. I don't think my Ghost is going to claw back a second. I'm pretty sure that's going to put me within striking range of the gold, most definitely. And I get the gold by a second, with a time of 1:53.669. Nice. Very nice. And there we go. So 10 tests are now through, and we have just 6 tests to go. And then, as to what we do after this, well, stay tuned to find out. As we are now back at Grand Canyon again, and where we are doing our first test for competition dirt racing, and where we are driving a Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 8, I think is what this is. Probably shouldn't have upshifted there the way I did, but no matter. I reckon I have got a bit more control in this car compared to the test I had before with the Ford Focus. I am way off where I need to be. Okay, let's try this again. And see if we can manage to get 7/10 faster. Right, okay. Let's see if we can manage to gain that 1/2 we need in order to secure the gold. And this time we do. We get it by we get it by more time in terms of thousandths than I thought we were going to get. But whatever, I don't care. We got the gold, moving on. We only have 5 tests to go now. As our next one, we are driving in the snow, and where once again we are driving a Toyota Celica for this test. And where we are now at Ice Arena. So, let's see how we go. As we are taking on a complex string of corners at the Ice Arena. Okay, how far off am I going to be? I know I'm going to be off, but by how much? Okay, I need to gain less than a second. I have no idea how I got there, but I certainly wouldn't care to find out. Because I gotta say, it definitely caught me out more than a few times for me to say just how painful that was, for me to somehow get it right, but eventually I did. Anyway, we're done, and now we're moving on to El Capitan. So after driving a Toyota Celica for the previous test, now we are driving another rally car, except for saying this time we are driving a Ford Focus RS, which is the road car version of, I think, the Ford Focus rally car, if I'm not mistaken. In other words, the two-wheel drive hot hatch version of the Ford Focus rally car, I think is what this is supposed to be. I think I was a little bit loose there, but we'll see how far off we are. I think I've got this one in place, but it depends by how much. I set dead on 30 seconds with that first run. Okay, let's now go and find our remaining 0.3 of a second. Because I was dead on 30 seconds with my first run. I barely went any faster on that run. I need to be better than this. Okay, that's a bit more like it. How did I avoid going off track there? Oh god, okay. I narrowly avoided disaster there. I literally went 6.5 tenths faster, even though I was literally meters away from failure on 2 separate occasions. I went out and I went 6.5 tenths faster, even though I very nearly failed on 2 occasions during that run. I basically just went balls out and I went nearly half a second up on my target time. That's actually amazing. But anyway, 13 tests down and still 3 to go. I think we're past the worst of it. Oh god. As this time we are now driving a Mercedes SL55 AMG around another part of El Capitan. Or SL600, I should say. My correction. So a 35.9 is what we need for a gold. This is going to be a tricky one, because I know there are plenty of areas where you can fail on this test. Especially once you get up over the crest, and you then suddenly drop down it again. As well as also this final corner of the section as well. You really have got to be careful here. I need 1.5 seconds if I'm going to get the gold. Okay, let's try and see if we can get that 1.5 seconds. I really do hate that blind crust that comes straight after the tunnel. I mean, you really are just having to just be so gentle with the car just to make it through that corner without spinning out into the gravel. I mean, you really have got to be pincer perfect over that blind crust. You really have got to nail it just to survive it. And this time, I do. Eventually. I've also been recording this now for nearly 2 hours. I probably said that a few minutes ago, but no matter. I succeeded this time. In the Mercedes SL600. And now we just have 2 tests to go, as both of them will be taking place on the same course. And that course will be the Italian street course. or as it is pronounced officially, Citta di Aria. And we are driving an Alfa Romeo Giulia 1600 for this. Okay, here we go. And our gold time is a 2:11. But let's see how far off we are. We are nearly 2 seconds off. Okay, so I need 1.8 seconds here. I'm really struggling here right now, just to somehow keep this car under control and to actually be fast enough to get the speed I want in order to get the gold. I am now less than a tenth down, but I feel like it's possible for me to maybe get 1 or 2 tenths up. If I'm fortunate enough. I think that slide probably helped me there just a little bit. Even though I can definitely say you're always on the edge when you're driving this car as fast as you are. You basically have to drive this thing right on the limit if you're going to get the gold. Which kind of scares me because this car is from the 60s. And well, I'm basically a boomer from the 2000s. So you can probably understand how I feel with the physics of driving cars from 30 to 40 years before my time. And I still wind up being half a second off somehow. I don't know why. As much as I really try my hardest not to cheat here. But I think I know where I lost the time I had. It was right before the end of the run. That was where I lost it. But I think I might have it this time. And I do. Yeah, you basically have to drive this car Dustin Hoffman style in order to get the gold. At least, I'm pretty sure that's what the case is because, well, he technically did drive, I think it was an Alfa Romeo Giulia, if I'm not mistaken, where he basically was more or less going flat out to basically crash a wedding. At least that was what he did in the 60s film The Graduate, which I should also mention is a really good movie and I definitely recommend it if you have not watched it already. Anyway, time for the graduation test, and where this time we are driving a beautiful Lotus Esprit. And immediate fail. I'm gonna retry right before I fail. Okay, come on. Come on. I know you're in there. Yeah, you know what? If you don't like me for using the wall, then fuck you. I had to do this because I've been at this now for too long, and also because I have things to do now, so I'm gonna try and get this over and done with as quickly as possible. So there we go. The International B license is now done. And in this part of the video, it took me nearly 2.5 hours to get here. Christ almighty. That takes so much fucking commitment to just stay on it. Anyway. So that's our International B license certificate now secured. And now we get to move on to our prize cars. So, for all bronze, we get the Nike One 2022. That is supposedly what they thought cars were going to look like in 2022, even though this year is 2024. So for all silver, we get the Mazda RX-8 Concept, Type 2, and for all gold, we get the Jensen Interceptor Mark III. I'm pretty sure this car is yellow as well. It's either yellow or orange. But anyway, there we go. Those are our prize cars, and fucking 2.5 hours later, we have beaten the remaining 13 tests of the International B license. And since I have to get going now, I'm gonna make this quick. So we now unlock Special Stage Route 5. I also believe at some point before we unlocked Opera Paris as well, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, let's get a look at our new cars. So, for all bronze, took me 2.5 hours to get there, even though I did have to cheat my way to get to the gold. Because I have things to do and other matters to attend to, this is why I had to cheat. I had to do it so I could get on with other things. Don't blame me, blame the amount of time I actually have outside of gaming. So for all silver, we get this Mazda RX-8 Type 2, ironically from 2001, the second of the two concept types, and this one would also wind up being the final design of the car as well, which we get in RX-8 Yellow. Cool. And now for all gold, we get the legendary Jensen Healey Interceptor Mark III. And my god, does this thing look awesome. It's also in a colour called mustard, apparently, which is basically yellow. So yeah, anyway. Thank god that's all over. And now, we are going to save the game. And next time, I think we're going to do some racing, because it's taken me at least 2 3/4 hours for me to get to the end of this episode. So next time, we're going to do some racing. Stay tuned for the next episode of GT4.